The straight-faced assassin of Saturday Night Live's Weekend Update, Colin Jost, didn't just make a few jokes about Meghan. He revealed the whole story she had spent years meticulously crafting in less than 10 minutes. To be fair, Jost has never been known to pull punches, but no one expected him to go this far, especially on a subject as delicate as the royal soap opera. Meghan Markle just got dragged across the thin line between fame and farce in front of a live studio audience. What started out as a corny remark about Meghan's media endeavors swiftly escalated into one of the most brutal comedic takedowns in recent memory. The audience wasn't just laughing. They were howling, clapping, gasping, and posting on the internet as if someone had dropped a match in a room full of gasoline. Meghan is currently involved in yet another rebranding, new shows, new ventures, and of course the never-ending balancing act between making headlines and preserving her reputation. But Jost wasn't having any of it, and he kicked off with a smirk that tells you he's about to drop a grenade. After landing another Netflix contract and starting a jam business, Meghan Markle demanded seclusion. The crowd went crazy when she delivered the comment that would be repeated for days. She's not the people's princess. She's the PR princess, a wannabe. One line summarized the concept that Meghan had not only connected herself with Diana's heritage, but was deliberately attempting to become a rebooted version of her. Without the sincerity that many had been muttering but were too afraid to voice aloud, Diana with Wi-Fi brutal went viral. The public devoured Diana's hardship or anguish, and the SNL audience responded right away. But the true eruption took place online with hashtags like phony memes from Diana, and the PR princess became viral on Twitter. Some are humorous, while others are blatantly cruel. Meghan's face was plastered over reality show posters, talk show sets, even scenes from The Crown. The point wasn't just to laugh, it was to make it clear people were done pretending, and maybe, just maybe, the industry is too behind-the-scenes. Insiders in Hollywood weren't laughing quite as loudly. Executives at Netflix and Spotify, who've bankrolled Meghan's creative ventures, reportedly took note. Some were rattled, others resigned, because when a mainstream comedy show lands punches this hard and the public agrees, you've got a branding problem. One consultant summed it up with a phrase that started circulating in boardrooms: the next day, Meghan fatigue. Now, this isn't about whether Meghan deserves the criticism, it's about perception, and perception, especially in showbiz, is everything. Jost's monologue didn't invent new criticism. He just vocalized what's already been brewing: the disconnect between Meghan's message and her method, between the image she wants to project and the one people are starting to see. It wasn't a hit piece, it was a mirror, and when a joke this sharp goes viral, it stops being just comedy, it becomes commentary that reshapes how someone is viewed, not just by fans, but by the very institutions backing their rise. Meghan's brand isn't collapsing, but it's wobbling, and for someone who's built a kingdom on image, that's a dangerous place to be. The punchlines kept coming, but there was something different about this particular takedown. It didn't feel like parody. It felt like a cultural intervention. When Meghan first appeared on the international scene, she had the curiosity of the world on her side. She was a fresh American, biracial, outspoken, a modern contrast to a centuries-old institution. She talked about mental health, feminism, and freedom. She seemed like a disruption the monarchy needed, but somewhere along the line, that narrative changed. What started as a hopeful story of breaking barriers started to resemble an unrelenting media campaign. Jost wasn't just making fun of Meghan's latest business endeavor or her well-lit podcast monologues. Jost saw that and brought it to light by making fun of her recovery process. The laughter that followed wasn't just at Meghan's expense. It was a sigh of relief that someone had finally said it. And it wasn't just Meghan Prince. Monologues hit a nerve because it was toxic. Understandable, he said. But now you're in a Montecito mansion filming 5 angles of your healing process. That's not trauma, that's content. He was deadpanned, making fun of how unpopular the couple had become even outside of the UK. The jab wasn't subtle, and that's the point. The harshest digs, however, came when Josh contrasted Kate Middleton's quiet strength with Meghan's public overexposure. Harry was caught strays to jab that America's trade deal with the UK should involve sending Harry and Meghan back. Kate raises 3 children with a smile and waves. According to reports, Meghan's constant need to brand every experience, every pain, and every victory was beginning to feel exhausting, and that exhaustion has consequences. He claimed that Meghan gives a TED Talk every time she toasts bread. And the joke caught on not only because it was funny, but also because it reflected something the public had begun to feel. Even Meghan's usual defenders in the media. Hesitated lifestyle influencers who once posted glowing Instagram stories about her silence suddenly had nothing to say. A feminist columnist who had praised Meghan for years tweeted just 3 words: "He wasn't wrong, the shift wasn't loud, it was quiet, almost eerie." But that silence said more than 1,000 retweets ever could. There's a rule in public life. When people stop defending you, it's not always because they've turned on you. Sometimes it's because they've stopped believing there's anything left to defend. And Meghan, once shielded by progressive media and praised as a symbol of modern resistance, suddenly found herself alone in the digital arena. Not attacked, just exposed the real danger. Wasn't in the laughter, it was in the stillness that followed. No PR team can spin silence, and that's what makes satire so lethal. It bypasses press releases and polished statements and goes straight for the gut. It tells you how people really feel, not how they're told to feel, according to one network consultant. The incident was characterized as brand slippage, the type that occurs when people stop caring and the applause fades and the hashtags settle, leaving behind a brand that has lost its whole, not due to controversy, but rather to overexposure, and Colin Jost simply held up the last cue card behind closed doors while grinning and reading from a script. According to someone close to Meghan's circle, she wasn't laughing. Rather, she felt ambushed, humiliated, and personally singled out by the SNL segment. She reportedly thought the sketch went too far, not only being offensive but also misogynistic. However, the more her camp pushed back, the more aloof she appeared to be at the time. As the punchline struck at the core of a disconnect that had been developing for years, Meghan's brand was built on empowerment and vulnerability. She spoke her truth and shared her struggles in interviews, but over time, those unfiltered moments started to feel staged. Every story was carefully packaged, and every quote seemed prepared. When vulnerability turns into a product, people stop connecting with it and begin to see through it, which is why Joe's roast was so powerful. He didn't criticize Meghan's character. Instead, he attacked the appearance of authenticity by making fun of the overly sentimental voiceovers and the never-ending cycle of media deals presented as healing. What remained was a marketer with a royal last name and a media playbook, not a villain. The irony: Meghan might have been better off ignoring it, but by reacting and expressing her hurt, frustration, and even anger, she did exactly what the public expected and reinforced the notion that criticism is unacceptable, that every joke is an attack, and that every moment needs to be controlled, explained, and sanitized. In the meantime, the royal family has become Meghan's biggest liability. The Palace source, who was quoted in a British tabloid, claimed that the segment was received with quiet satisfaction and that it was only a matter of time until someone finally said aloud what we've always known. The source also claimed that another insider was even more direct, and that the joke wrote itself because she had been playing Diana for years. So it's easy to see why the company might find some grim humor in it all. While the institution remained silent, Meghan and Harry used their royal connection to criticize the monarchy, and their brand took a lot of hits. However, this time, it wasn't tabloids or politics. Rather, it was SNL, a mainstream comedy show, and the audience cheered instead of jeering. Variety insiders said that media executives were privately concerned about the public's reaction because the jokes were universally funny, which is difficult to get in a divided society. With Meghan, it came naturally. That's not a warning sign, it's a siren. According to some, the Meghan era is simply changing and not ending. But it is moving in a different direction, sideways toward a kind of cultural irrelevance that is more powerful than hate. Because when people stop debating you and start making jokes about you, the narrative changes. You are no longer the focal point of a movement, but rather a punchline. And Colin Jost gave America the script with a well-timed smirk. The heritage Meghan's original goal of writing with strong speeches, courageous decisions, and daring change has been taken over by a different kind of narrative that she is unable to edit, narrate, or market, and possibly for the first time in her meticulously planned public life, the last word didn't come from her. Rather, it was a joke that landed.